From the King George's Estates in downtown Port St. Lucie, Florida, good Wednesday evening, everybody, and welcome back to KC and 60 right here on DARPATV.com. Kevin Canessa here with you for the next hour or so, and to all of our regulars, I welcome you back to the program, and to anybody who may be here for the first time, I welcome you to the program for the first time as well. And of course, just taking a look at the chat room. If you're on the podcast, eventually you'll see this, but you won't now because it's not on the recorded part, but it'll pop up eventually. Joel, the mouth, was in the chat room and said that his car overheated and he blew a head gasket today on his car on the way to work. Kaylee had to come. She gave him the other car, and he's at work now. They had to tow the other car to the shop, and it's there now, and what a disaster that is. What a joke. What a shame. You know, it's just so typical. No matter what, whenever you feel or find that you're finally getting things, like if you're having a rough stretch or whatever, and you finally feel like you're getting yourself in order here, doesn't it always turn out that something big has to slam you to set you back? I mean, you could write 1,000 stories, and every single time there would be 999 good stories, always, and then you just get to the point where you're like, finally, I can breathe a little bit, life is so much better, and then, boom, out of nowhere, there it is, it always happens. It's so annoying, isn't it? I just can't believe that I'm reading what I'm reading today here. You just, when you think things are great, you blow up, and it's a car situation, and nothing is more intolerable than car trouble. I don't care what anybody says, because you don't realize it until it's gone, how much of a reliance you have on it, whether it's to get to work, to get to the store, or whatever it is that you're doing. So you take that away, it changes everything. And it just, oh boy, car problems. I'm getting sick to my stomach just thinking of it. And poor Joel has to go through this now with, all these things that are going on, the baby coming in a couple of months, Carter turning 1, and now this. So thank you very much, Lord. Really good job looking out. At any rate, since Joel is here, of course, I haven't had a show for about a week, and I finally had a chance on Saturday afternoon to go to my first Mets preseason game here in Port St. Lucie. For those of you who are unaware, the New York Mets, which just happened to be my favorite baseball team, well, the team that I rooted for when they had some good years, I should say, probably, play and train right here in the same town that I live in, here in Port St. Lucie, Florida. And I went with Joel and his girlfriend Kaylee and Paige and Carter, and there's Carter, here he is, at his very first New York Mets game at Tradition Field in Port St. Lucie, Florida. And I got to tell you, folks, he was more of an attraction than the team was. And you see a little guy like this, 10 and a half, 11 months, walking around, basically saying hello to people. It's priceless, and Bill put it up, his new nickname that I'm sure his mother wouldn't be too fond of, Le Petit Orange. Rusty Staub was Le Grand Orange, and he is the Le Petit Orange. So that was Carter from the other day at the Mets game in Port St. Lucie, Florida. Indeed, it was an enjoyable experience. Anytime I get a chance to spend time with Joel and his family, it's always fun, and it's a real neat stadium. Say what you want about the Mets and them being as penurious as they are with a lot of things. They spent a lot of money to enhance that minor league stadium. So it's one of the few good things that you can say about the Mets, is that they do the minor leagues well. But most of the time, the major league team is sort of like a minor league team anyway. So here's the little video, too, that I took of Carter at the game. And just watch it. You got to remember something, folks. Here, I don't have any children of my own, but I used to hate kids until Paige and Carter came around, and I'm just always so grateful to Joel and Kaylee for letting me get my jollies with the kids. They're just they're wonderful. Like my little niece and nephew, I just love them to death. And when you see an 11-month-old kid doing this, it just, if you don't smile, something's wrong with you.
He's cheering too. Yeah, you cheering?
Carter,
man. Carter. Yeah, she didn't have it. is the one who's behaving. He's waving.
There he is, having the time of his life. He didn't need any adults. He was just fine on his own, and that was that. So I had a great time at the game on Saturday, and I of course forgot that I was supposed to make a Skype call afterwards. It just hit me this morning when I was doing a few things, and I accidentally clicked on Skype. There's somebody in the audience I was supposed to call, and I'm sure this person knows just how bad I am with remembering shit like that, even though I was the one who said, hey, let's Skype later today after the Flyers game or the Mets game, and yep, my stupid ass forgot. So to Billy, I am so sorry. I'm just an idiot. I really am just a stupid idiot when it comes to stuff like that, and I apologize. Now, just a couple of things, even since Billy is here. If you haven't been paying attention to the National Hockey League, his Philadelphia Flyers put a beatdown on the Pittsburgh Penguins twice over the weekend. They shut them out on the road, and then they beat them at home. And that was, if you can imagine this, here's a very interesting stat that I did not know about. In the last 29 games, that game Sunday was only the second time in the last 29 games that the home team won in that series. That is the weirdest stat, that 27 times out of the last 29 meetings between the Philadelphia Flyers and the Pittsburgh Penguins, the road team has won the game. That is just an unbelievable statistic that I had no idea about. So, yeah, the Flyers play very well there, and then on return, for some reason, the Penguins play pretty well in Philadelphia. Same thing with the Devils. They can beat the Flyers, they can beat the Rangers, they can't beat anybody else, including last night, where they went back to in time. As I have been saying all along, I'd love to see them return to their green uniforms that Billy hates so much, the red and green. And what do? They go out and they get smacked around by the Boston Bruins. But I mean, you got to look at this too. I mean, the Flyers are the Bruins have won 10 games in a row. And if they are not the odds-on favorite to get out of the East right now, I don't know what team is. You know, of course, like I said, the Flyers have peaked right now. They're starting to play very well. So I won't necessarily write them off, and you can't write off the Rangers. But at this point, the Bruins just seem to be the odds-on favorite to just go right through the Eastern Conference playoffs. Of course, the games are played on the ice, not on paper, so anything can happen. My team, done. I don't care. I truly don't care if there's another big run in them. I don't know whether there is. I doubt there is. But this is just a terrible, terrible organization right now. And I'm going to say something about that in a minute. And I just looked in the chat room, and I see Tom O'Connell is here. Tom was at the game last night. He said they were awful, was at the game last night. Devils look like a minor league team. He's right. He really is. And I don't know if you have any time, Tom, but if you do have some time and you can call in, I would love to talk to you about last night. But don't worry if you can't. I don't want to put any undue pressure on you, because I sat here today in the midst of doing my work and was thinking a lot about what has happened over the last 7 or 8 years with this organization. And I don't get it. Thank you, Tom. Take your time, brother. I don't get it. This is a team that in 2003 went and won the Stanley Cup. Then in 2012 somehow got there. But in between and including up to now is a disaster. And I'll tell you what. Now, Billy Scarterfield is the biggest Philadelphia fan you're going to find on the planet. But I don't think he gives two craps about the Philadelphia 76ers, the basketball team. But for those of you who are unaware of this, and I'll get to some news later, too, by the way. I just happened to be starting off with sports today. I don't know why, but I haven't in a long time, so you'll bear with me. The same guys who own the New Jersey Devils own the Philadelphia 76ers, which in and of itself was a problem when it first happened, because there are a lot of people who at first thought that maybe since they bought the Devils, they would eventually move the Sixers to Newark. Not going to happen, but there was the thought of that. And there was also the thought of, how could you own one team in Philadelphia and another team in the New York market? You just can't do that. It's just a weird setup. when you think about it, because of the proximity, because of the pretty much hatred between the fan bases and the teams and all that stuff. But right now, and this, I don't know why, maybe I'm just missing it, but I'm not seeing this covered as much. The Philadelphia 76ers, after 2 years ago getting to the playoffs and having a very fun team to watch, one that I watched on certain nights, I'm admitting this, when I was living down in South Jersey, the last year I was in New Jersey, they were fun to watch, but in the 2 years they have lost 21 consecutive games, folks. They're playing at a 220 percentage on the season. I think they're 15-54, something like that. 21 consecutive games. They were 15-31, and now they are 15-52. I'm sorry, it was 52, not 54. I mean, that is just mind-boggling that they've lost 21 consecutive games, and apparently not even their worst season ever, when in 1972 they were 9-73. Billy was at one of the victories that year at the old Spectrum. But this is the team that has lost 21 consecutive games and is run, with the exception of Lou Lamoriello, by the same organization. They have the same financial philosophy. They use the same philosophy when selling tickets and marketing the team. Both teams are involved with partypoker.com, which I thought was a real big come-on and gimmick from the beginning, since legalized betting is legalized now in the United States online, in New Jersey online. So I kind of worry even further, just beyond all this nonsense of what's been going on with the Devils over the last couple of weeks, when you consider that the mess that the complete and utter mess that the Philadelphia 76ers are right now. Is this the same thing that's going to happen with the Devils? Because these guys, when they bought the team, Harris and I can't remember the other guy, when they had a press conference to announce it in the summer, couldn't get over the fact about how they love this organization, they love the culture of winning, and how they want to continue that tradition. And if this is the tradition that they're trying to build, they're out of luck, and fans of if you're a fan of this team, which I am, of course, you're dead. You're done. What is there left? What is there left to an organization that's run by guys who have dismantled, completely turned around NBA franchise and dismantled it again? I mean, how many times do the Philadelphia 76ers and their fans have to go through this? It's just incomprehensible how often they go through this with the Flyers, but I don't want to see this with my hockey team. This isn't what I bargained for. This isn't what the fans were happy about when they first bought the team, and Jeffrey Vanderbeek finally gave up after his atrocious financial mismanagement. This was supposed to be the promised land, these new guys. They were going to come in here, and they were going to let Lou Lamoriello spend money, because they even said there's money to be spent, and they were going to rebuild and make this team much, much stronger, much more competitive, and get back on the ice, get back to the Stanley Cup Finals, and win the damn thing. From what I've seen a complete and utter regression. And then we'll take it one step further. One step further. And again, I apologize to you non-sports fans, but we'll get to news later and topics. Comes a report in the Star-Ledger yesterday. Now, take it with a grain of salt. Marty Brodeur has a big mouth and he babbles a lot. For as good a goalie he is, when he gets behind a microphone or when he's one-on-one with a reporter, he tends to go off the handle, and I don't quite trust him. But he says that at one point, Lou Lamoriello was working to not only sign Zach Parise before 2 seasons ago, but he was going to actually try to lure Ryan Suter here too. Remarkable. My savior is in the queue. I can't believe you had to live through that nonsense, Tom, last night.
No, that was as bad as I've seen them in a long time, given it was the best team in the East, but they did nothing right.
Take me from the beginning here. What was the atmosphere like in the building? Because it seemed like it was a pretty decent. It was a decent-sized crowd, right? And then it seemed like they were pretty enthusiastic at the beginning of the game.
Yeah, at the beginning of the game, it actually really early on, like the first couple minutes, it was pretty. I actually had seats where I was like right on the glass second row, so I had really good seats for the game. And the lower bowl was not filled. Like we had plenty of seats around us to begin the game, and then as the game went on, the whole place filled up, and it was pretty close to sold out from the way it looked in the arena. And I mean, actually, I don't think the crowd was that juiced up at all. I mean,
Oh,
they didn't have much to be juiced up about. I mean, once the puck dropped, they were pretty much out of it. But to begin the game, maybe a little bit. But then once the game was on, it was pretty much silent, and there were a handful of Bruins fans there that were loud because their team was winning. But I mean, the Devils fans didn't have much noise to make.
let me ask you this. You've been to many games. You said that it was one of the toughest games you've seen in person. What is happening? How do you go from beating Detroit and Philadelphia in the same week to losing to Florida, to Tampa, and now this? I mean, this is just inexplicable. I don't get it. What's going on here, Tom?
Well, I think there's like multiple things going on, but I think for the whole year, it's they're either scoring a lot of goals and they're giving up a lot of goals, so they lose those games, or their goaltending is very good and they're not scoring any goals and they're losing games 1-0. It usually that's the way it's been happening all year. They don't have not every part of their game is on. They usually have one part of their game, but I think Pete DeBoer sort of messed up in the past week where he had Corey Schneider and Marty Brodeur back and forth each game because Brodeur got hot after the Olympic break, and then he decided to start Corey Schneider against the Florida Panthers, and he decided to give up 4 goals. And I thought he should have put Brodeur in that game and let Schneider play against the Tampa Bay Lightning, who are a much better team than Florida. So I think that was a mistake there. And then last night, he went back to Brodeur after Brodeur lost 3-0 against the Lightning. I thought he should have put Schneider in last night. So I think DeBoer doesn't know which goalie to go to because Schneider after the Olympic break has been pretty bad.
Yep.
Brodeur was pretty hot. Now Brodeur has gone on the skids, and I think he doesn't know which goalie to put in for each game.
1 week from today will be the 22nd anniversary of Marty's first game, March 26, 1992, against the Boston Bruins. In fact, they had a stat on the TV that it was the last time the Devils wore red and green because in the 1992 season, the second half of the season, they wore dark-colored jerseys at home because it was the 75th anniversary of the NHL. Let me ask you this question. I asked you this during the Outdoor Classic. Was this another one of those sentimental things with DeBoer? First game ever was against the Bruins. Might be his last game ever against the Bruins. Let's let him go out against the team that he first beat. Was there anything to that? I saw that being discussed a little bit.
Well, I didn't hear that, and if that's the case, I mean, I think DeBoer should be fired after this season anyway. But I mean, if that's what he's doing in a playoff chase, you should be fired immediately for that because that's just asinine thinking. You can't be having sentimental feelings. If the Devils were way ahead and had a locked in the playoffs, then you can do something like that. If they were way out of the playoffs, you can do something like that. But they're in the playoff hunt, and they just lost 3 games in a row to pretty much knock them out of the playoff hunt. So if he's putting Brodeur in net just for the sentimental reasons, that's a horrible way to go about it. But I don't think he was. I think he thought Brodeur was getting hot, but I think he screwed it up, as I said, with the Florida Panthers game. I think that's where he screwed up the rotation, where he should have started Marty instead of Schneider. So I think now he's all confused. He doesn't know who to start. I think from now on, I think you got to go Schneider for the pretty much the rest of the way.
Yeah.
Marty gets a game here or there because, as you said, I doubt Marty will be back next year, and even if he is, he's not going to play that much. So we have to get Schneider going and to become the number 1 goaltender because right now he hasn't been playing that well. So we need him to step up his play and be a number one goaltender if we're gonna try to make the playoffs next year.
Yeah, and at some point he's got to get ticked off too, right? I mean, he was brought in to be the number one guy, and he's not getting that really. He's not getting the number one goalie treatment. So at some point, you want this guy to stay here after his contract's over in a couple of years. You got to start treating him that way, right? I mean, I think it's been pretty unfair the way he's got treated.
Well, yeah, I think so too. But I mean, he faced this in Vancouver with Luongo as well, so he's used to this, and he left Vancouver. It was a trade, but I'm sure he was pretty happy that he left that situation. Now I bet you he wishes he was back there because Luongo's gone now too, so he would probably be the starter there. But I think Lou has to see what's going on, and I think Lou has to say, okay, we either have to let him go. I'm talking about Brodeur, or we have to trade him, or he has to retire. One of those three options. Because yes, you don't want to see him in another team's uniform. You want him to be a Devil his whole entire career, but when it's hurting the franchise this much, and after what looks like we might be missing the playoffs for 2 consecutive years, you have to figure a way to either part ways or have him retire.
That's a great point. It really is. And, you know, I sort of wish he would smarten up like Kenny Danico did, and when Scott Stevens did. They sort of realized they're at the end here. It's time to go. Let's wait till a couple of years. We'll have our nice night, retire the number, have a great ceremony, all the pomp and circumstance. But he's just hurting himself. You know, the more, like, if he really thinks he's got something left in him next year, I think he's out of his mind. I don't think he's anywhere near capable of playing another year, right? I mean, or is he being selfish?
Well, as I said, I was there, and I was on the side of where he was in the goal for the 2 of the 3 periods, and the one goal he let up was one right through the 5-hole, and it was a very weak goal. But then you see him make some spectacular saves, and last night, I mean, he was getting peppered. I mean, I think the Bruins had 31 shots or so, and the Devils had like 19. So he's not getting the offense, and he's getting a bunch of shots at him. So I think it's where I still think he can make really good saves, but the problem is if the Devils don't have offense, he's pretty much useless for the organization. And so if they find some offense, I think they could keep him around. But if it's a team like this, which has no offense, it will be tough to have him in net. Or anyone in net, really.
Yeah, really. It doesn't have to be him. We're talking to Tom O'Connell up in Jersey. Tom was at the Devils game last night. And just a couple of things before we wrap it up, Tom. Peter DeBoer, I've always been a fan of his. I know you're not. But why is he getting this pass almost from Lou Lamoriello when you had guys like Claude Julien, who led the team to the number 1 record in the Eastern Conference and got fired with 4 games to go? Why Peter DeBoer getting these passes here?
That is an interesting question. I mean, as many people know, Lou is very quick on the trigger with coaches, but he seems to really like Peter DeBoer for some reason. I think it has to do with his first year making it to the Stanley Cup Finals, and I mean, I think DeBoer is a good coach. I don't think he's a horrible coach, but it's just when they have a team like this, there's not much you can do, and you have to be perfect when you're coaching these kind of players that are not great. And I think with talent, with Parise and Kovalchuk, he was much better because he didn't have that little margin for error that he has now, and I don't think he's as good coaching less talent.
Yeah.
I think if he has a good team, he's much better, which most coaches are, but I think he was one of those really good coaches. When he had a lot of good talent, you could expect a deep run into the playoffs. But with the team that he has now, he has that little margin of error. And as we were saying before with that goalie situation, I think he's flubbed that up. And 3 years ago, if he had Parise and Kovalchuk, maybe him making the goalie situation, they score 5 goals and Brodeur or Schneider give up 4 goals and they win the game. But this is a different team, so I think that's why he might be holding on to Boer and maybe maybe Lou has something up his sleeve for next year with bringing in some big time scorer, or we at least hope.
I hope so too. Yeah. Now that leads me to my next question, which is perfect segue, Tom. I mentioned about these owners who are also the owner of the 76ers. 21 straight losses for the Sixers. Are you have any concern, the way I do, about these new owners, that these guys may not be in it necessarily to win as much as they say, but more in for the buck than anything else?
Yeah, it's interesting because they came in and I think most people thought that was a good move at the time. Uh, but are they more focused on basketball? Because I mean, we can clearly see the Sixers are trying to lose every game possible to get a good draft pick and get their team going. So are they more on that side, or are they focused on both? Now, uh, as long as Lou is in charge, I feel like we'll be okay. But I mean, it's interesting because I think you might be right where these guys might not be as invested, and uh, if they're not, the Devils could be really bad for a long time, and that hasn't happened in a really long time.
Yeah.
So that would be tough to see.
Yeah, the last time they missed the playoffs 2 years in a row was 1986 and 1987, which was actually the midst of a 5-year losing streak, if you can imagine. 83, 4, 5, 6, and 7. So it's been a long time since they've been this bad. 3 quickies, okay? Will Martin Brodeur be back next year in a Devils uniform? Yes or no?
I'll say no.
Will Peter DeBoer be wearing crazy ties behind the Devils bench next season?
I say yes.
You say yes. Okay. Pete DeBoer is back. And the last question, will Lou Lamoriello be back as the general manager of the New Jersey Devils next season?
Yeah, I say yes. I think he's still got a little ways to go. I think he wants to win a couple more cups, but if he's going to do that, he's going to have to bring in some big time players. So I think that's what we got to hope for as Devil fans, is that Lou, as we know, you don't think he would have much more time as general manager of the Devils. So you would think he's going to be retiring soon, but you would also think that he wants to get a cup or two more. So I would expect them to go out and try to find some scoring, because although we bash on the goaltending, which has been brutal, you got to score to win. So I think they need to find scoring first and then worry about what they have in the net.
Tom, you are my savior tonight. I cannot thank you enough for popping on with me without absolutely any notice. And I'm very, very grateful. I hope everything's going all right for you up there in Jersey, eh?
All right, thanks, Kev. Yeah, everything's good.
Good. I owe you one, buddy. Thank you.
All right.
Okay.
See you later, Kev.
Later, Tom. That's Tom O'Connell up in northwest New Jersey, talking about the Devils, and the two of us can commiserate all we want. They're just not going to get any better. But in the chat room, while we were talking, Joel brought up something the San Jose Sharks did the other night for one of their fans who was young and who has a heart ailment. Wait till you see this. This is very, very touching.
Back here to SAP Center, almost a whole period has gone by. We haven't even told you yet that the Sharks acquired a new player today. They signed lifelong fan, 18-year-old Sam Tageson to a one-day contract. Now, Sam has been dealing with a heart condition ever since birth, and thanks to the Sharks Foundation and the Make-A-Wish Foundation, he got to practice with the team today, meet the general manager, Doug Wilson, and then this. He got to skate out of the Shark Head for tonight's game. It's the first time ever the franchise has allowed somebody beside a player through that Shark Head for the game. There you see him showing on the Jumbotron as the whole crowd gave him an ovation. Randy and Drew, I know we're the guys that are supposed to have words, but watching this scene unfold, literally I was left with none. Total goosebumps, a total emotional scene here. I've never seen anything so touching in 5 years of covering this team.
Remarkable, and again, another reason why the NHL just does it better than every other league. What a thrill that had to be for that young man. Oh my goodness, coming out and skating through the shark mouth like that. It really is. You know, that big old mouth that looks like Mounties logo. And Joel, glad you reminded me. I almost forgot about that. So great job by the San Jose Sharks, even though they are the team that what's that kid's name again? Vinny, that used to drive us crazy. That, oh God, I can't even remember his name. I can't remember his last name. I know it was Vinny, but even though he was a big fan of the San Jose Sharks, I think they did a tremendous job bringing that kid out there. So good job by them. What's up, Keith? Good to see you, Keith Smolin, joining us from Jersey, and always good to see Keith. I'm going to take a short break. When we come back, a couple of things that I want to get to, including this horrendous helicopter crash in Seattle yesterday. And, you know, these helicopter crashes are much more common, I think, than most people realize. And it reminded me of back in 1986, and I know Keith Smolin will remember this, when a woman by the name of Jane Dornacker was on WNBC. It's October 22nd, 1986, and she went down and died with her pilot doing traffic in the Hudson River. And it was just a terrible, terrible thing. Happened live on the air, too. This one in Seattle, they weren't on the air, but this one was on the air. Wait till you hear the chilling air check that I have from back in 1986. We'll take that break. When we come back, the chopper crash in Seattle. You're watching KC and 60 on DARPA TV. Do not go away.
Nothing. Now here it is, up close. There's the punch, the run over, and the man's hat.
I'll give you $50 for those sneakers.
Ah! $50. Okay?
You can have them. They're
Okay.
terrible.
It's to prove a point. Now, you wash in detergent alone, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's wash this sneaker in detergent alone and this one in the same detergent plus Clorox bleach.
Now, see any cleaning difference? The one I wash with my detergent is just dirty. The one washed with Clorox looks so clean.
Clorox Clean. People can see the difference.
Saturday, the fun starts when Nancy meets Francie, Sunshine's mom.
Actually, we live a very quiet life here. Oh, I won't. And what do you call this? Bad timing.
Then there's a fire at the fishes.
The empty house 2 doors down, it's on fire.
Could Victor be a firebug?
These children are under my supervision.
Go fish!
And Starsky and Hutch are set up by the mob. Right after Blansky's Beauties and Fish.
Fellow Americans, stop dragging your feet. Wear kitties when you're going to go out on a date.
Look great.
But do you know your feet need a little love?
Kitty knows.
What an agonizing, enterprising, hard kind of day you spend working overtime. You.
Be a bit small.
You. When you say you need shoes for it all, I say comfort and style. If you're young at heart or young enough to remember, come to Kitty and explore. And the great American, great American, great American shoe store.
I found a recipe you won't find in a cookbook, but it's sure nutritious and a real money saver, too. Take a quart of Carnation Instant Non-Fat Dry Milk. Add a quart of whole milk. Mix, chill, and serve. You get 2 quarts of fresh-tasting low-fat milk and make a real savings on your milk bill. Carnation Instant Milk. Good for you and your budget, too.
Know how I save money with unsweetened Kool-Aid and sugar, just like my mom did.
I remember how she'd mix a big pitcherful. Kool-Aid was so good and so inexpensive. It's still as delicious as ever.
Today, with my sugar, it's about 12 cents a quart. Has vitamin C, too. I like giving Kathy what my mom gave me.
Kool-Aid brand soft drink mix and your sugar. You loved it as a kid, you trust it as a mother.
I can't believe this. You know, Gravy Train's really been improved. Look how the guys go for it. It's a big improvement because Gaines just added a natural beef flavor. Improved Gravy Train even looks different. And dogs can taste the difference, wet or dry. Tests show they prefer its new beefy taste over old Gravy Train 3-1. It's fully nutritious, too. New Gravy Train, a big improvement in taste. Right, guys?
40 past the hour. Canessa back with you here on KC&60 on this Wednesday evening. Sure glad you decided to join me tonight. And welcome in, of course, to Mawa, who just joined us. It's always good when Mawa's around. So before we went to the break, I had mentioned that I wanted to talk a little bit about this terrible helicopter crash in Seattle yesterday. First, the story, and then the discussion. Just a terrible thing. But as I had mentioned, this is not the first time that news helicopters crash. In fact, I remember in the early 2000s when I was living in Kearney, New Jersey, the WNBC TV, Channel 4, News Chopper 4, went down in the Passaic River in Kearney, in between Newark and Kearney, and somehow the pilot survived. He was able to get out and swim to the shore, and I remember because I was close by when it happened. I remember being on the scene for it, but of course I think the most noted was back in 1986, Jane Dornacker, WNBC Radio. Listen to this, it's somewhat chilling.
Okay, here's Jane Dornacker now on the helicopter.
Thank you very much, Joey. There was indeed an accident southbound on the Major Deegan at the Mosholu Parkway, an accident, a serious accident involving a tractor-trailer and a car. It has been pushed off to the shoulder, but now watch out there now, because another flatbed truck is going to have to come to clear it, so yield right of way. Northbound on the BQE, we spotted that disabled vehicle in the right-hand lane before the Kosciuszko, not causing much of a backup, but further northbound there on the BQE, traffic is very heavy past the Kosciuszko all the way over to the LIE. The outbound Holland Tunnel, extra heavy for you right now. Earlier there was a car fire at Hudson and Connell Street. It has been cleared about 6 hours.
Now just listen for a second. You're going to hear the sound of the helicopter starting to make a real strange noise.
Heading to New Jersey, the outbound Lincoln Tunnel looks a lot better for you. In New Jersey, get the water! Get the water! Get the water!
Okay, we're going to play some music here, I think. Find out what's going on with the helicopter. There's something happened there. It's 4:45, 16 till 5 on WNBC on the Joey Reynolds Show. We're taking an helicopter report from Jane Dornacker. Let's check in, see how they're doing there. And then we'll come right back at you. Nothing happened with Jane. We had a helicopter report from the helicopter. Of course, you know, once before we had this happen. A few months ago, she went down in the drink. Yeah. Not she. I mean, she has a pilot. Jane is... well, until we find out what's going on, we'll just... Jane was up there just now giving us a report. And sometimes it gets cut off, too. You know, it's just an electronic thing. But this time she said, hit the water, something like that. So we're going to find out what's going on there, so stay tuned. We hope nothing... Say a little prayer. Hope nothing's wrong. That's really that's a hard job.
See, there were a few creepy things about what happened with Jane Dornacker. There were people who at first said that they thought she was saying hit the water to let everybody know that they were going down, but what she was actually doing was instructing her pilot to hit the water rather than the land because they were over land. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I can't recall with 100% certainty that when they did hit, they hit dry land, and that's why she and her pilot both died. That was her last words: hit the water, hit the water. And perhaps even more creepy was that just a couple of months before, I completely forgot about that she had gone down in another helicopter and survived that one. Keith, do you remember that? I remember. It's hitting me now that she did survive the first crash, and then it happened again not too long after, and then she died. Her name was Jane Dornacker. She was a traffic reporter back in 1986 on 66 WNBC radio at the time, and just awful. That was it. She died right there. That was her last words. And of course, I always think of that anytime there's another crash like the one that was in Seattle. And this is the backstory of what happened yesterday, about 7 o'clock in the morning Western time. They're getting ready. They went back to their heliport. I don't know whether it was to refuel or what it was. And as they're taking off, this all happens. Take a look.
A dark day for the Como-4 family and for the city of Seattle.
It caught us all so off guard.
A devastating helicopter crash claims the lives of 2 of our co-workers and seriously injures another man.
It was tragic. It was very, very tragic.
Tonight we have an update on the search for answers about today's tragedy.
And we're hearing from another witness who watched as the chopper went down just a few feet from her vehicle.
I just looked in my rearview mirror. I was too afraid to watch it.
Thank you for joining us tonight as we continue the difficult but important task of covering the Como helicopter crash.
Our hearts are heavy as we remember 2 colleagues who died doing what they loved, covering the news. Pilot Gary Fitzner and photographer Bill Strothman were killed when the helicopter crashed moments after lifting off from Fisher Plaza.
Here's some of the last video of the chopper captured before the accident today. Our helicopter was spotted flying past a beautiful rainbow this morning on the way to a news story.
Tonight, we're learning more about the 3rd victim who remains in serious condition at Harborview Medical Center. Richard Newman, a medical researcher, was in his car on Broad Street when the helicopter came down.
2 other cars were hit, and many other people witnessed the tragic scene right in front of the Space Needle.
Everything sounded a little bit weird, and next thing I know, I was looking down, and I heard the crash, boom.
It was that big, as big as like you see in a helicopter crash in the movies.
Our Team 4 coverage continues tonight. Como-4's Russ Bowen will explain what we know so far about the events that unfolded outside our studios.
But we begin with John Humbert, who talked to a witness still shaken up about what she saw today. John?
Well, guys, Callie Minow was just simply going to work, not knowing whether one stoplight or a different lane could have changed everything. These are days when it's impossible to believe what you see.
In that moment, I couldn't. I froze totally.
Callie Minow was heading into work early and was stopped at the red light next to the Space Needle when the Como helicopter took off, and it never gained control.
I mean, it looked like a toddler learning how to walk. It was all over the place.
Seconds later, it crashed to the earth.
I heard this just terrible sound.
Minow was at the wheel of her new white SUV, just feet away from the destruction.
It started to go down really quickly and almost nosedived behind me, and I just looked in my rearview mirror. I was too afraid to watch it.
As the flames spread, Minow ran from her Jeep thinking the trail of fire could take her too.
This is a terrible idea. This could just all go up in flames. I could die right here.
The difference those 5 feet made.
It's crazy. It's very surreal.
Tonight she's home safe in Lake City. Her car is unharmed outside.
There's literally not even a scratch.
But the damage is done elsewhere. Because this doesn't seem like it should be believed.
When it happened, it didn't seem real, and it still doesn't really seem like it happened either.
Now, Minow was like so many others that we heard from today, that the helicopter actually wobbled in the air, started to go down into a dive, could not regain control, and then actually flipped over before crashing, leaving us all out here and inside our offices with the unanswered question of why. Reporting live at Fisher Plaza, John Humbert, Como-4 News.
So there was a story, and here's some raw video from the scene. This here was taken by a passerby with an iPhone, and the amazing thing about news stories these days is that when something like this does happen, you always get some incredible shots of what happened, and I wouldn't be surprised if at some point or another, as we progress and as this investigation continues, that there will be someone who has a video, or perhaps a bank or some of the businesses in that area in downtown Seattle, right outside the Space Needle, will have a video of the actual crash itself. I'm surprised we haven't seen it yet at this point, but you know, I often wonder about helicopters and the safety of helicopters. I always wanted to ride on one. I've never been on a helicopter before. And I think it would be incredible to take one of those helicopter tours around the city of New York that they have. But too often, I think you hear more about these crashes and how, I don't know, I don't want to say that the helicopter is an unreliable mode of transportation, but really it can go out of control and spiral literally out of control just so quickly, and you just most of the time when these choppers go down, there's no time to react. There really isn't. There's no time for these guys to get themselves back and to regain control if something goes wrong. So I don't know if I would actually ultimately go on one if I had a chance. Billy is saying in the chat room that they have great helicopter tours at the Grand Canyon. Bill, have you ever done it? Have you ever done one? Have you ever taken it? I think that would be fascinating to go down in there into the Grand Canyon and to see the depths of that and how wild it is there. So I bet it's probably expensive too, right? I imagine, because even those tours around New York City do not run for they were pretty penny to get on board for about 45 minutes of traveling from Manhattan up through the Bronx, Queens, Brooklyn, Staten Island, and back. It's a quick ride, but you shell out a couple of bills, that's for sure, just to do that. Bill says he was on a Whirlybird in '61 and it was sweet. Wow, okay. I didn't know they had helicopters back then in 1961. I'm just kidding. I'm sorry, I couldn't resist. It was just a perfect setup whenever I see the 60s and 61, so I'm sorry about that. But you can see some of this. I mean, these, those, oh yeah, Keith is even saying too about how these small prop planes are dangerous too. You couldn't give me all the money in the world to go flying in a propeller, a single prop engine. I mean, granted, your chances of getting struck by lightning are greater than dying in a plane crash, but those little things, like the one that John Denver built for himself, where he died in 1997, or as Keith was just saying too, the Corey Lytle crash, where he was believed to be behind the controls, where it just flew into the side of an apartment building in Manhattan, that was a wild crash too. And these tiny little planes that are like basically matchboxes, for crying out loud. And I don't get it. I don't get it. So there's no sound to the videos, just me talking over Be Real. So that's why you don't hear. That's why you don't hear any sound. There is none. So again. Would you get in a helicopter? I'm sure the safety again is stronger or better than being on a car and crossing some New York City streets and city streets everywhere. But when you see things like this, it just sort of gets to me for some reason, and I don't know if I would ever consider doing it. Corey Lytle was the pitcher, yes, the New York Yankees pitcher, crashed into the apartment building in New York, who just the day before. I'll never forget this. Keith will remember this too. He was on with Mike and the Mad Dog on WFAN, and Dog basically said Corey Lytle should be hiding out in an apartment for 2 weeks after the Yankees had been beaten by the Detroit Tigers. And Mike Francesa, of course, made an absurd comment to him about Lytle said, I really like to be able to sit down with you guys so that you could really change the way you think about me. And out of nowhere, Francesca just says, to be honest with you, I don't think anything about you at all, and I never have. Just a disgusting display. Of course, they would never have known that Corey Lido was going to crash his plane into a building the next day, but I'll never forget that. It was probably one of the most unprofessional, disgraceful interviews I had ever heard, and I felt that way right after it happened, not even before knowing that Corey Lido had crashed his plane. So sometimes those two were just ridiculous, and the arrogant piece of shit that Mike Francesa is just makes it all the worse. Saying that, to be honest with you, I've never thought anything of you anyway. So who's Corey Lido? Who are you anyway? Yeah, okay, yeah. Thank God for Mike. Thank God for Mike. I'm going to try this one more time. There is no sound. This is just Be Real. I have no sound. I'm just playing it and talking over it. There is no sound. Just so you know. Okay, it is, anyway, it's 56 past the hour, so that's going to do it anyway for this edition of KC and 60. Mawa is doing a show, I believe, on Saturday or Sunday. Let us know in the chat room, my darling, because I don't remember off the top of my head. I don't think it's Thursday this week. So I just want to let everybody know that her show, Live Feed USA, is coming up in the next couple of days right here on DARPATV.com. Don't forget, right after this program, it's Chop Shop TV, and also Watson & Watson is a DCast show that starts, I believe, at 8 o'clock as well, so you might want to check that out. There's some other things going on here at DARPATV.com. Don't forget, too, if you guys are aspiring broadcasters, anybody out there, the beauty of DARPA TV is that you could do a show of your own, and I hope you give it a thought. Live Feed USA for 2 hours, Saturday at 9 p.m., 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. I know where I'm going to be Saturday at 7 p.m. because the Thursday shows I've had to miss the last couple of weeks, so I'm glad the show is actually Saturday so I can watch that. You check it out. Mawa always puts on a fantastic program, so check it out on Saturday night at 7 Eastern Time right here on DARPATV.com. Looking forward to that, because I really have. The strange thing is that I don't know why, but I really think I need to. Did Keith just say you're getting married Saturday? Congratulations, brother. I didn't know that. That's great. That's fantastic. All the best to you. Buddy Keith Smolin is getting married. Yeah, have somebody bring an Android phone, not an iPhone, because the iPhone's app is not ready yet, but bring an Android phone and have them broadcast your wedding live on DARPA TV, so we can all be there. Mawa with the great idea, as usual. So, because all you got to do is click one button, and boom, there it'll be. A live wedding, a first on DARPATV.com. But in all seriousness, congratulations, Keith. Very happy for you, brother. All the best, and many, many years of happiness to you and to your new spouse. That's going to do it for me. From Port St. Lucie, Florida, Canessa signing off for now, and we'll see you back here very, very soon. Good night, everybody.